get you on audio only. Super happy that you're here. Lori's here too. Looks like she's just wrapping up a call. So we got a lot of people here who are ready for the solution, which is great, and a few people who haven't been here yet for this discussion. So we're just going to start with a tiny little recap of what is this case study that we're actually resolving together today. And today is the resolve. I've resolved that today is the resolution. Anna has resolved that today is the resolution. This is it. This is the final, unless, and I will say this with love, unless we dive into something that's super juicy and valuable, because that's really what we're here for. We're not here in Tuesday training necessarily to resolve treatment plans. We're here to learn. We're here to learn how to be effective at treatment plans. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I am your host for the hour. I'm Gina Schatz. I am both a manual and movement practitioner. And along the way in my 30-year track, I can't believe it's been that long, almost 31 at this point. Along the way, I have developed the Schatz method, and it's real, it's trademarked, it works, and we use it. So there's a lot of us here on Tuesday training who are in that mastery practitioner track. So you will have others who are used to the way I train, which is I will absolutely support you in getting the answer, but I will ask you a question to your question, always. Asanda, it's great to see you. I know you're here and used to the questions for the answers style that I lead with as well. So I'm glad to have you back. And we have in the last few weeks been working on a real case study. A client of mine who came in a couple weeks ago, I tossed it in for Tuesday training for some discussion, and it opened up all of this amazing content for all of us. So that's what we're here to do. Every Tuesday, we talk through how can we, as both manual and movement practitioners, solve real client work, and typically focused on pain, orthopedic pain, restrictions, functional mechanics, some functional anatomy. Sometimes it takes us to reviewing that to be able to have the information to resolve the problem. So whatever you're here for, I'm here for it. That's what we're here to do for the next hour. So for those of you who've been here before, thank you for coming back, especially because we've been leaving cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger on this particular case study. It's been kind of exciting. I kind of like the vibe, actually. I think we're going to continue with the cliffhanger approach because it leaves me feeling eager to come back and see what you all have created. And last week, I was in my own training, so I did not meet with you, but I offered that in the week away, that you all work on what would your treatment plan be? Given the information that you have on this particular client, what would your treatment plan be? If you're joining us for the first time, just hang tight and we'll get there together. And I invite you to go back and watch the last few Tuesday trainings when we really unpacked what was happening with this client. We looked at this client's chief complaint. We looked at what that means. We looked at how symptoms are rarely the place where we start or resolve a problem, and typically where practitioners want to go because they want to get rid of the symptom, and I get that. But that's not going to get you results. So we talked about how and why. We talked through the lever system and how the body moves and how to address whether muscles need to be stretched or not. So whether you don't have to be a movement practitioner to know that. In fact, manual practitioners like to release everything. And that's only rarely the answer. We talked about how and why. We dug into that about 3 weeks ago, maybe. And then we worked through just briefly what intakes look like. Gary, you don't look like Gary. I love that. Did Gary give you... You're muted. Did Gary give you... we can see you talking, but we couldn't hear you. So I'm guessing that Gary gave you his link and she's out. So we'll find out who that lovely being is and how we can support her along the way as well. Maybe she logged in for him. Who knows? So welcome. And I think somebody else just popped in here too. Let me be sure to say hello. Clarissa, it's great to see you and have you here. So feel free to come off camera if you want to join in on the conversation. If you're not able to do that, or you want to just lurk for a while to see if it's okay, I promise you it's a safe place. Absolutely come off mic or come off mute though, and use your mic to communicate so I can hear you, because I really do want to support you with some answers. Feel free to ask any questions. And if neither of those options work, you can certainly use the chat feature. It is Gary in the house on camera. Wow, he fixed it. Gary, way to be. You're muted right now, so we can't hear you, but we're happy to see you. And whoever the lovely being was who set you up, tell her we said hello and thank you, that we couldn't hear quite hear what she was saying, but we saw that she was trying to communicate. So welcome. So yeah, any way that you can communicate here, please do that, because this is an interactive. It's a way for me to support you in what you're up to as a practitioner. If you're watching on the replay, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section. I know a lot of you who watch on the replay just send me emails. Not just, you send me emails, which I love. And I think there might be a little like intimidation, like I don't want to put that in the comment section in case it's wrong, or in case Gina asks me a question I can't answer. Feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to send me a direct email. That it all works. Welcome, Rhonda. I'm glad you're here. I saw you just join in. And absolutely, if you're here watching on the replay, at least click the like button so I know that you were here, so I know that there was meat here. And if you liked it, then like it twice. No, just kidding. You can't like it twice. But let me know that there was value here for you so that I can be inspired to keep going. So I'm going to call now on those of you who have been here already for the last few, and Rhonda's on camera. Nice to see you. I'm going to call now on those of you who've been here for the last few weeks and have a little bit of recall on this particular case study, so we can all start from the same place, start to finish, because we're going to wrap this up today. So please, whoever was here for the last few weeks and you are privy to any details about the client work that we're working on, the client of mine who came in with a assurance that he had pulled a hamstring, that client, if you have any details or recollection from that client case study, I would love it if you would share it so we can all get on board together and start where we left off. Hey, Cheryl, it's great to have you here. Nice to see you. So who would like to share any review, any details that you have on this particular client? The one with the, in quotes, pulled hamstring. Anybody remember what he said or what we've worked on so far, or what we got to in our sussing out of what to do? Gary, you got something? No.
Go ahead.
You came off mute. You're on camera. You're ready. I thought you had something. Who has something they'd like to share? Cheryl?
Sure. Right. Just from my notes and what I listened back to, a man comes in with pain in his hamstring. He has a hypermobile constitution. He's certain he pulled a hamstring muscle. He was in the gym 10 days before, and was doing squats. And while he was doing a squat, he felt a twinge in his lower back. And he asked his buddy to take a look at him as he was doing a squat. And the buddy said that something was off. It didn't look right. Maybe his alignment was out. And so it was just a subtle twinge, but the next day he felt it in his hamstring. Yeah. And then he came to you 10 days later.
Great. Good
Something
recall,
like that.
Yep, good recall. Awesome. Any other details? Anybody want to add in? Anything else?
I'll add in. He also had added weight on his back when doing the squats.
Yeah.
And what his buddy, untrained eye, easily noticed was that his lumbar curve was rounded. It was not, in its proper curve.
Right. Yeah. And how did he have that extra weight, Anna? How did he have extra weight? For those who weren't here, what does that mean?
Yeah, he had, I don't know whether he had a backpack. I think it was a backpack. And I don't even know how you do that in the gym, or what you put in it. But yeah, he had
20 pounds.
Something.
Yeah. You put
Sand
extra pounds.
Or, weights or whatever.
Yeah. You put extra pounds in there, strapping on your back and go for it.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
They also have vests. Yeah. There's also vests they might have in the gym, that they put on.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Great. Any other details anyone remember that you think are relevant?
Let's see.
There's one more that I'd love for you to have. You guys are doing great on your recall. Like amazing.
So it was a right hamstring pain, right? It was a right.
Yeah. That wasn't the detail I wanted you to have, but I like it. There's one other detail I want you to have. Mm-hmm.
Low back pain? No.
Yes. What about the low back pain, Cheryl?
Oh,
Well, he was starting to feel it in his lower back.
Yeah, that's what finally brought him in to create a session.
Yeah, I think Cheryl added that he felt twinges right in the, while actually doing the squats, he was starting to feel twinges.
Yeah, two different bits of information though, equally relevant, but different information from the body. At the moment that he was doing this function that you've all outlined and recalled with great detail, at the moment, he did not feel hamstring pain, he felt a low back twinge. Afterward, his body trying to take care of it gave him the sensation of a hamstring pull. The hamstring pull sustained itself over 10 days, then started reaching or going into, his words, finally affecting my low back. So now I'm going to come in for an appointment, but my problem is my hamstring. That's important to know, right? So what do you guys, and so let's since that was the only detail of all the amazing details that you recalled, why do you think I'm emphasizing that? Why is that important? Why is it significant that he felt it super subtly during the workout, 10 days later started to feel it? He didn't think it was anything and it was all hamstring in between. And I'm saying, no, that matters. Why do you think that? Why am I zoning in on this?
Yeah, because obviously the, the hamstring pain moved. I mean, we're all connected and those two areas are definitely connected. So the hamstring pain ended up migrating and affecting another important part that is tied to hamstrings and to that type of movement.
Okay, maybe. Anybody else?
also, Gina, I know you mentioned that, I'm not sure the percentage, but 90% of pain is referred.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go with maybe it was coming from someplace else. Yeah,
exactly. So 90% of the pain is referred from somewhere else. He's positive. Hey, Valerie, using Lori's link. I love it. Everybody's sharing links today. Or no, it wasn't sharing. Gary got set up as them. I'll change it for you, Val. I know it's hard to do on your phone. I was taught 80% of the pain in the body is referred from somewhere else. Now we have furthered our study to understand that it's 90% of the pain in the body, orthopedic pain, is referred from somewhere else. And so what that tells us is that there's maximum 20% chance that if you focus on where the symptoms are, that you'll resolve the problem. So it's important that we know that 80% of his pain was hamstring, which means it's 20% chance that that's the issue. So that's what we spent our last few weeks uncovering, why it wasn't the hamstring. Even though he's positive it was hamstring, even called it a pulled hamstring, even wrote that on his appointment. I want you to resolve my pulled hamstring. My pulled hamstring is causing my back pain. It would be tempting if we just listened to those words to think, oh, the pulled hamstring, as you mentioned, Anna, the pulled hamstring is now affecting the low back. In some instances, that could be true. In this instance, it isn't. And the way we know that is because of what his body said at the moment that it happened. And then we unpacked for the last few weeks, when he was doing what he was doing functionally, what was occurring? What was occurring alignment-based? What was occurring functional-based? What do we know about the body's design? And that's what gets you to know it's not the hamstring in this case. That's how we know that. Go ahead, Val.
So when he got that, I'm going to call twinge or gotcha, he was in improper alignment. His back was arched instead of having a normal lordotic curve, or even straight for that matter. My thinking is because the intrinsic muscles were overstretched, they were trying to contract and couldn't because of the function. And I'm thinking that's where the gotcha twinge came in. In the meantime, the psoas couldn't help when he was trying to do what he was doing because it was stuck.
Right. Yeah, we talked about the psoas a lot, I believe, last time we talked, and like what was
Yeah.
actually happening for the psoas. And we also added in both phasic and intrinsic action. So
Right.
both are important. Like a muscle's working as a muscle working, right? So what's its job, and is it doing its job? Is it able to do its job? Is the alignment set up for the muscle to do the job? So let me just backtrack this just a tiny bit, especially for those of us who are joining in this conversation at this stage, kind of like, what the freak are they talking about? Which I get. We've uncovered in the last few weeks on this particular case study and these symptoms, we've uncovered a lot of places that we get to be knowledgeable as practitioners. Okay, and this is not a criticism. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just highlighting what we get to know in order to solve these problems. Because what I know is that those of you who are here, you're here because you want to do the same type of work I want to do in the world. I want to resolve the problem. I don't want Groundhog's Day with my clients. I don't want to sort of fix it and hope for the best. Hope's not a treatment plan, right? Like, I want to resolve this, and it's resolvable. It's resolvable, always resolvable. So I got to figure out how to do that. You got to figure out how to do that. The way we figure out how to do that is to be so steeped in anatomy and so clear on functional anatomy, and then practiced at applying it. And that takes a minute, right? It doesn't take 30 years, but it takes a minute. And so if we rush to, oh, the symptom means this, I'm going to use my elbow and my thumbs to do that, or I'm going to put him in this pose to do that, we went way too fast to the finish line, and we missed all of the information that's critical to know to resolve complex problems. And for those of us who are here to do that, we're up for the task, right? We like the complexity, which means if you like complex problems, you like complex learning. It goes hand in hand. So the complex learning on this particular client, or this case study that we revealed, was a body's constitution matters because it alters their alignment in function. Like, what the freak, Gina? That was a lot. Their constitution matters. We talk about that in several of the courses that I have in our academy. It matters so much that it was literally the game changer for me when I was working clinically, that got me to develop my own method, because I was like, this is missing. I was never taught this. Let me teach it, right? It's important. In those constitutions, we learn then that muscles have dual paths. They have phasic action, like the action that they do, they flex the knee, when they contract, they rotate here, they do this, they do that. That's all phasic action. You got to know phasic action. You got to know phasic action. You got to know what the prime movers are that are doing the job when people move, because it's how they move or how they don't move that causes their problem, their pain problem. The body, this is my motto. I want this to be yours as well. When the body is aligned the way it's designed and moving the way it was designed to move, there is no pain. So in order for us to get people back to no pain, we've got to know how it's designed, and we've got to know how it's designed to move so that we can return it to those two states. Got to know anatomy, got to know your muscles, got to know how they move. Absolutely. Then there's the second track of muscles that we've also uncovered in the last few weeks. And that is the intrinsic action of muscles. Definitely not taught in school. Never learned that. I was probably licensed for over a dozen years before I even figured that out on my own. And it wasn't from any of my textbooks. Thankfully, it's being talked about now. Hallelujah. We all need to know that, because the intrinsic action of a muscle is nothing like its phasic action. And if you're calling on a muscle to do any type of contraction, it could be being asked to do both, even simultaneously. If you only know the phasic action, and now I'm making like, oh, you only know phasic action. For some of us, that's our hill right now to climb. You got to know phasic action. You got to know the joint actions that muscles take, even as manual practitioners. Once you know them, that does not tell you it's intrinsic action. It's another hill to climb, smaller hill, because it's just the way the intrinsic action happens. It's a little more condensed. You got to know that. And then we get to know what optimal alignment is. How are the bones supposed to be aligned when they do those actions? What is the proper alignment? That goes back to how is the body designed? How is the body designed? There's 4 curves in the axial skeleton. If you're like, I don't know what axial skeleton is, awesome. Go there, dig in there. You got to know the axial skeleton for sure. And it's super easy to learn because it's rote. It's memorization. There's no strategic thinking in alignment. Alignment really just comes down to how is the body designed. So if you know the design, you know the alignment. If you don't know the design, you kind of guess at the alignment. Sometimes you go for aesthetics, right? Or what someone else's body composition can do, and you think that's what it's supposed to be. No, no, no. Just alignment is based on design, for sure. So it takes us back to the very first point I drew up. You got to know their constitution, because different constitutions look different in the same alignment. So you got to be able to know that. Go ahead, Gary.
Could you go back and just do a shots brief on what intrinsic is?
Do a shots brief? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Gary, I love this. Shots briefs. I think I might use that. I really like that. A shots brief. Somebody remind me that Gary just said that. I have to write that one down. I really like that. A shots brief. Oh my God, that's my favorite thing. And the answer is yes, of course. A shots brief on intrinsic. Is that your question? Okay. Meaning what they are, or what it is, or what it does.
How it's different from phasic.
Great. I got a real brief for you. Phasic action is gross motor movement that you can physically see with your eyes. Intrinsic action is posture and balance. And the muscles must contract to create both posture and balance. But when they contract, you don't necessarily see it. So to give each of those an example, phasic action is gross motor movement that you can see. I see someone walking across the room or up a flight of stairs or picking up groceries. I see it happening. There's identifiable joint action occurring. Intrinsic action is posture and balance. I don't necessarily see that happening, but I see the absence of it. And in order to create both posture and balance, you must contract muscles intrinsically.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Shots brief, our first. We did it here together. So good.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that. The shots briefs. I love it.
That's what we'll have to call our bullet points now.
Yeah, right, Val? I think it's so exciting. We're totally going to use that all over our academy, Gary, and definitely in our shots method practitioner track. Yep, for sure. And so let me just pause for 1 second. So I said at the beginning, there are several practitioners here in Tuesday training that are in the shots method alum. They are either currently working through the year-long program or they're graduates of the year-long program. And that program is where I teach the shots method. They also they also get a lot of anatomy, because in order to learn the method and you use the method, just like I said to all of us here today, you have to be steeped in anatomy knowledge. In order to solve complex problems, even simply, method's super simple, but you can't apply it if you don't know the anatomy. You don't know where you're taking the person back to. Or once you know where you're taking them back to, and once you know how the body's designed, the method makes the work super easy. So that's that year-long track. And in our academy, that's where all of the anatomy lives. So there's 200 hours of anatomy in our academy, over 20 courses. So in, for example, 3 of the courses, we talk about intrinsic muscle action and phasic versus intrinsic and compositions, whether someone's hypermobile or not and how to tell. So that would be in 3 different courses, for example. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Here today on Tuesday training, you don't have to be in our academy or in our year-long track. You are all welcome. And please do come, because we love playing every Tuesday. But in case there was like, what are they talking about? Is this an exclusive club? No, everybody's welcome. And you might find that we're in different places along the training trail. Okay, so knowing all of that anatomy and functional design is important for us to be able to resolve problems, case studies, right? Symptoms, to eliminate symptoms and the source of those symptoms. That is what the shots method claims to do and can prove. We always resolve it at the source. We never band-aid and go to the symptom. In fact, I think it's one of the hardest tracks or hardest parts during the mastery track. Mastery practitioners will be like, oh, well, my client came in with this, and so this is what I did. And I'm like, why? Go deeper. What do you mean, right? And they're like, what? I tried my best. So we just dig. We dig and dig and dig and dig. We're like squirrels getting ready for winter. We just get into the deep of it, and we don't bury the symptoms, but we resolve them at the source. And that is easy to do when you know the design, and learning the design feels, for some of us, like, you know, little mounds that we go over. All right, so here we are. We know all of these functional elements that we need to know to resolve this CHAPS problem. Okay, there's one, and so everybody good on that? You guys know the list of what you need to know functionally to be able to solve this? Everybody got that from moments before? Okay, great. There's one extra that I will add. Don't write it down if you're not in the SHOTS method mastery track, because you won't be able to find it, and it doesn't matter in this moment. I promise you it doesn't matter to solve this client issue in this moment. And for those of you who are on the SHOTS method track, of course I measured him. Okay, of course. So we have a series of measurements also that I developed along the way. They're super revealing, and I did measure him, and he did not have that many measurements. He had 3, and they wouldn't surprise you. So for those of you in the SHOTS method track who are like, well, wait a minute, I don't have all the information. I hope you said that, because you do get to measure every single client every time, before and after. And if you're not in the SHOTS method track, it's okay, because the measurements in this particular case study aren't that weighted. They aren't weighted enough that they would like be excluding, you know, party content that you would need to solve the problem. What you need to solve this case study is all of the elements I already listed for you. Okay, as of today. Okay, perfect. So with that, what did you guys come up with? What would your treatment plan be? What do you think this chap's body needs to get rid of this hamstring quote pull? What'd you come up with? Crickets. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I kind of expected it.
Yeah.
Totally okay. Did anybody look at the poll in the YouTube channel? I put up a poll to tease you guys last week with my absence.
Oh, I didn't.
I couldn't find it. I looked and there was
Really?
nothing. Yeah.
All right.
And I
don't
didn't
know.
have to go back after that once I started working. So
I get it. There wasn't a share button on the poll, which is sort of interesting. I'm not a social media mogul, believe me. I'm an anatomist. Like, this is my jam here, this conversation. I do my best to stay connected with you in the ethers, and this is where I excel. So please don't ever compare my anatomy prowess with my social media access, because they're nothing alike. They're nothing alike. That's okay. I was just playing with you guys last week in my absence to see if I could inspire you to come up with an answer. All right, well, let's do this. So Val, go ahead, Val. Yeah, you're ready. Go for it.
my hands-on would tell me more where I would want to start, so without having his body to relate to. The ethereal thinking this through is very difficult for me. But I would have probably gone into wake up, psoas, and work the multifidi.
Okay, based on what?
Well, the slack that it was stuck in, that neither one of them could do their job.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would go in, I call it tickling. My doc does not like my terminology.
No, I don't like that either. We're going to abort ship on that. Right.
I don't have the word to activate them.
Okay.
And with direct indirect pressure, because you obviously can't actually touch psoas except for through layers very gently.
Okay, awesome. So here's what I heard you say, that forming treatment plans based on intake information is still where you're growing and stretching.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And here's another thing I want to emphasize for all of us. You do not need to be a manual practitioner to solve this problem. You do not need to be a movement practitioner to solve this problem. And that's one of the things that I keep repeating myself in our academy, that the SHOTS method is not a manual or movement practice. It's something that both types of practitioners utilize. So please do not take yourself out of the game because you're this and not that. I thought that I was this and not that, which is how I became both. But guess what? Neither of those tracks had my method in it. Okay, so please do not do that anymore and say, well, only because I'm a manual practitioner this, or only because I'm a movement practitioner that. No more of that. Both types of practitioners are needed, deeply needed on the planet. There's no throwing shade or, dismissing of either. But the emphasis I'm making here is you don't have a limitation because of the type of practitioner you are. You don't. Everything that you needed to know about this client could be resolved, whether you're a manual or a movement practitioner. You don't need to use your hands to solve it. In fact, you could have solved this chap's symptoms working remotely. You'd need other skill to do that, but you could have done that. You don't need to be a yogi. You don't need to have a Pilates reformer. You don't need them to be in your gym. You don't need to have a treatment table and deep thumbs and hard elbows. No. And that's true for most problems, by the way. Go ahead, Val.
So is this like my coming down the steps and making adjustments to my posture?
Oh, hey. Oh, Val, applying the method. I'm sorry. Do you want to maybe share?
Sure.
Sure.
I woke up on the weekend with my back in a lot of pain. I was probably on a 6 out of 10 going, what in the hell did you do in your sleep? And I'm up and I'm thinking, okay, no doc today, no work. Haven't made an appointment for body work. And I thought, okay. And in my head, it's ringing. Gina says, body alignment is doesn't experience pain. So I straightened myself up. I stacked my body, put my shoulders back, made my head go back. Closing that drawer is very difficult for me. Forward head. Started down the steps and thought, this is feeling a little better. By the time I got to my coffee pot, I didn't hurt anymore.
Oh, hey.
My body via the shots.
Well done, Val. Now that is a shot spree for sure. When you move the body the way it's designed in its aligned design, there is no pain. It can be that easy.
Yeah, and I said to myself, wow, this stuff works.
Oh, I'm so glad that you finally got that. It's so good, Val.
Well, it's theory until you experience it.
Yes, and that is like, I don't even want to laugh at that one. It's theory until you experience it. It's only smarts and knowledge until you apply it.
Right.
You guys aren't, we're not skilled as practitioners until we actually apply what we know. It's really important. One does not cover the other. They're both mandatory. Go ahead, Anna.
I'm a movement practitioner, but I do a lot of work on Zoom. So I would have put him in optimal standing first to start, to try and find that intrinsic posture that we've talked about with blocks, and have him really experience what it's like to engage intrinsically. So that's the first thing I would have done. I would then turn to strengthening core. I would turn then to strengthening the paraspinal muscles, and subsequent appointments I would do.
Wait. Let's just stay with one appointment.
That's a lot in one appointment.
Yeah. And so my question for you and for all of us is, when you decide this is what I'm going to do, I want you to very clearly and articulately tell me or yourself why. Why bother? And I mean it. If you don't have a clear answer on why you're bothering and you're just sort of like guessing, then you may be resolving it. I want you to know, like, this is what's happening and this is what's needed. So what do you think is needed, Anna?
I think the optimal standing is the first thing that he needs, so that we can try and bring the body, the four curves back to the way the body's designed.
Okay, great. And so let me add this to you. What did we start this case study with way back, a couple weeks back? What was the topic on the table? Do you remember the very first topic? There's a type of tightness.
Tensile.
Tensile.
Tensile stress. Yeah.
So if when the body is showing up with tensile or contractile stress, or even compensatory tightness, is it possible to return it to alignment without any type of interruption or intervention?
Probably not.
Correct. It is not. And so this is right at that sweet spot, fork in the road. and I say this all the time in mastery, and you guys have heard this. So Anna, this will sound, you'll hear this and be like, oh, that's right. We get to know all the anatomy and all of the functional anatomy, and you get to know it like the back of your hand. And you get to also, in that process, know alignment. Because if you know alignment, then you know joint action. And if you know alignment, then you know safe joint action, and etc. When we start hearing from folks that they're having orthopedic restrictions, pain, inability to do something, you must switch lanes into now it's when all that went wrong. When all the things that are designed the way the body's designed are working, you might get a little bit of this, that, or the other. You might get a little soreness. You might get like, wow, that's so much better if you just make a little tweak here and there. But when someone's like gimping and thinking, wow, like I can't lay down without pain. I can't even stand and bend over and spit the toothpaste out of my mouth because my hamstring's screaming. That's when everything's gone wrong. So yes, we do get to return them back to the design, but you've got to intervene with what's wrong first. And so what do you intervene with? Well, you go back to what's on the table. What's on the table that's going on in this person's body? And we identified that when we met 2 weeks ago. So what was, who meaning muscles, they always have personalities when you work with me. Who is on the table who was not happy? And what were they not happy about? And how are they presenting? Which muscles were doing what? Val, you started us there today.
Multifidi was in tensile.
Okay, what else?
And slack. It was stuck in slack and couldn't work intrinsically. The psoas was in slack. Could not work intrinsically. Could not fully contract because of the slack. It was stuck.
Yeah. So if it's on the slack and it can't work intrinsically, it can't work phasically.
Right.
Right. Remember we said that a couple minutes ago. You got to know the phasic action of muscles and the intrinsic action of muscles. Right. So here we are. This chap is doing squats. We went over all those joint actions a couple weeks ago. Please go back and watch those. Like literally go back and watch them. You can increase the speed on the replays. You can watch them at 2 times. I don't sound as nice when I'm fast. I'll just tell you, but at least the content is there. But go back and watch them because you'll hear pieces again and be like, oh, that's how she got there. Right. So we have this orientation happening, this alignment in this area of the body, the lumbar curve, which means these muscles on the back, just grossly pointing them out. These muscles here are lengthened. These muscles here are shortened. Shortened muscles aren't necessarily strong and contracting. They're just shorter. They're on the slack, meaning origin and insertion are moving towards each other. It's just a little loose kind of muscle spindles in the middle here. And I held up rubber bands and showed you guys that. Tensile stress, when muscles are lengthened, they're tight. Doesn't mean they're strong. It's a rubber band being pulled too far away from each other. I held up rubber bands and I showed you that. So in both these instances, they're mechanically under duress, but we added 20 pounds of weight to this guy, which means they, for lack of a better word, they locked there. They held themselves in tensile stress because they were trying to do the job of the hip action. They were trying to do the squats that he was asking his body to do. Your body will do anything you ask it to do, even at the risk of compensatory patterns in recruitment. It will do anything you ask it to do, even if it distorts itself to do it. That's a problem. That's how people get into trouble. That's why we need to know alignment. And what does a joint look like when it's aligned? You don't need to be a yoga teacher to need to know alignment. You need to be a body worker to know alignment. How is that joint supposed to look when it's doing its action? Where is the head of the femur supposed to be in the acetabulum? What is that relationship supposed to look like? You absolutely get to know that. What are the discs supposed to do? And where are the spinous processes supposed to be relative to each other in order to do whatever you're asking it to do? You got to know that. You got to know that. And then when things go wrong, you get to know the quality and nature of when they go wrong, tensile stress versus contractile stress, etc. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So to just add one step before your treatment plan, Anna, what would you do now? So we talked about the paraspinals under tensile stress. We also talked about last week, we added QL into there under tensile stress. We also added psoas under contractile stress. So he can't support alignment or do hip flexion, which is his phasic job. So he's under duress in both intrinsic and phasic action. And we got a guy telling me he's got a hamstring pull. I'm thinking, yeah, if it were only that simple, right? Well, we know it's not a hamstring pull. So what would you think would need to be done? What does this body need first so that we can get him back into alignment? Any guesses?
I'll go for releasing the psoas.
Okay.
I'd
Great.
say
And then
waking the psoas.
Yeah.
What did you say, Val?
Waking the psoas.
Waking. Okay.
Yeah, because it's in contractile stress with slack. So how do you do that? Do you try to, I mean, you got to get it out of that contractile stress to release. So you got to release it somehow.
love it. Yeah. Thinking about how the muscles work, they both contract and lengthen. Yeah. Thinking about
But
that.
it's hard to imagine how you release it if it's in slack.
Mhm.
How about
That's,
a PNF?
that's what makes
Yeah.
me go, well, if it's got some slack there, how do you release it? Because usually
Yeah.
you
Maybe
release
you're
it.
just maybe
tight
you're just
muscle.
waking it up. I think that's what.
Maybe that's a better word, yeah, or
Yeah.
in my mind.
Okay, so then go a step further. Like if you're not sure if it's this or it's that, get clear. Remember I said a couple minutes ago, be super clear on, so what does that mean? So we know that the psoas started in slack because of the lumbar alignment.
It
And we
needs to
know
lengthen.
what, Val?
It needs to lengthen.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. Just
Okay.
hold your thought, one thought. Hang on.
Okay.
So we know that it started in slack from alignment, right? The lumbar curve was reversed, paraspinals lengthened, psoas went on the slack. We know that that happened out of the gate from alignment. Then we added movement, function, and what is the psoas needing to do then?
It needs for movement, it needs to contract, but it can't contract because it's already stuck in contraction. So it needs to lengthen.
No. Wait, slack is not stuck in contraction. Slack is not stuck in contraction.
movement. Okay.
How would the
Oh.
psoas though get stuck in contraction? Because it ended up stuck in contraction, but how? How did the psoas ended up stuck in contraction with this particular client?
Physically?
Okay, so let's back up 1 second. So what's the joint action that's being asked of from this body, the main joint action in his gym?
Flexion of the hips.
Flexion.
Flexion of the hip, which is the job of which muscle?
Psoas and
The
rectus
psoas.
femoris.
Yep, primarily psoas, helper B is rectus femoris. Absolutely. A couple other guys jump in there to help, but main guy is psoas. So the main guy who's needing to contract is the psoas. Even on the slack, do you believe that when he went down into hip flexion with his first squat, do you believe that the psoas fibers began to actively contract?
They might not have been able to.
They began to. They tried to. Absolutely.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it's up to him. It's up to him. So he's on the slack and then trying to contract on top of there. So getting a, instead of this much distance of contraction of fibers,
Mhm.
he's getting this much distance of contraction of fibers, and he's got to try.
Okay.
He's got to try because that's the joint action being asked of him. And he's got 20 pounds of weight on top of it. So even more than what he's designed to hold up, he's being asked to hold up and resist. Resisting on the coming back up, right? He's being asked to resist more body weight, opposing gravity than his design, right? Like we get to believe that our divine design is just exactly that. My psoas is the right size for me. My hips are the right size for me. My mouth is the right size for me. Like my sizes are my sizes and they're good, right? Your sizes are your sizes. So all good. It's not like, oh, I've got this bum, whatever. And we kind of do that, and clients do that too. Like, oh, they kind of point fingers at this part of their body like it's an enemy they're dragging around with them. It's not true. It's emphatically not true. It's designed divinely. And we somehow missed it in alignment or function. But if we returned it to there, would get along just fine with my psoas if I returned it there. Go ahead, Gary.
Then are you born with hypermobility, or do we develop hypermobility based on what you said?
No, you come with it and you leave with it, and it's also perfect.
Okay.
Unless you're hypermobile and you don't like it.
If you don't like it, you're dragging around an enemy, but you come with it and you leave with it. And I tell you what, I am the most hypermobile person I've ever met, including all of my 30 years of clinical practice. And I could have made that an enemy, but instead what it did was it allowed me to dig into intrinsic muscles and come up with this method and share it with all of you. If I walked around, yeah, thanks, Val. If I walked around like that was an enemy, we all would have missed out. So I come with my brown eyes, I leave with my brown eyes. I come with my hypermobility, I leave with my hypermobility. And I can buck against the system the whole time I'm here, or I can look at it like it's divine design and lean in. And I suggest the latter. Go ahead, Rhonda. Did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up.
So yes, you did.
Okay.
So I was thinking that you would have the client do squats without the weight in good form.
Okay, I would say that's true at the end of the session, because just like at the end, sorry, Brenda. Did you say something else? There's a bit of a delay, so I just want to give you space. Is there something else? No. Okay. So again, we want to return the body back to design and back to alignment. Absolutely. So I would absolutely end your session that way. Have you effectively returned them to their optimal alignment? Have you effectively returned them to their optimal function? And returning them is what we're up to right here in the treatment plan. So what do we need to get out of the way so he can go back to using that psoas the right way? What do we need to get out of the way so that the lever system is back to equal function on both sides of the lever? You guys are right there, by the way.
The slack and the tension.
I keep thinking about, like, I keep seeing this thing, and like I'm thinking of the slack, and I think of a seat belt. You know how you pull your seatbelt and then it gets stuck in that slack and you have to pull it again in order for it to go back, to retract. Yeah. And I mean, and I kind of feel like, is it similar to that, where you have to like contract it to like get it unstuck, so to speak, you know, so it can return, but in proper alignment, because alignment first, because we know that comes first.
We know that's our formula. It's another shots brief. Yeah. So I like what you're saying. And what I love about it mostly is that you're seeing the nature of the muscle. So if you're in the nature of the muscle and you're in relationship with the muscle, you can communicate and interact with the muscle. And that needs to happen. It needs to happen. We can't be out here sort of floating around poking at the body. Doesn't work. Gotta be in it with the body for sure. So I love that you're saying that, Cheryl, and even seeing it in that way. Question for you, because that's how I answer questions. Do you believe that in this particular client, or in any muscle, I'll say it that way. Do you believe that in any muscle, the heavier weighted contender of trouble is a muscle being on the slack, or a muscle being held in contractile stress? What's a bigger issue?
Slack, I think.
Yeah, I would think the slack.
Why?
Because it doesn't have any strength or ability. It's, I don't know.
I'm going to say the opposite.
How come, Anna?
Well, contraction is the action. So if it's totally in that contracted state for a prolonged period of time, the lever system can't work. So then you've got a whole joint action that isn't happening properly. So I think for me, being held in a contracted state would have more impact.
Okay. Gary, did you want to weigh in too? Did I see your hand up? No? Okay, so this is a really important place to be in. I love that you guys are in thought about it. I was trying to think as I was listening to your answers. I'm like, did I know that or did I figure that out? So I think that you just got to try it. Like you got to try it enough times to know what's the difference. And I've said that, like being smarty pants is one thing, but you got to be in the clinic setting. You got to be trying it out. You got to like work with bodies and see what they say. And this is what I've learned. A muscle being on the slack is very passive. It's very passive. So it doesn't have any power. And you mentioned that, Cheryl, the muscle on the slack doesn't have any power. Noted. But if I was going to compare that to a muscle being held in contractile stress, that's very powerful. That's a powerful interruption, which is holding more power in the interruption. So that is the bigger issue. I got to get him to stop being such a heavy loader in the wrong direction, right? Being on the slack changes right away as soon as you involve a muscle on the other side to contract. But I can try to, so let's use the lever. Let's use torso. I can try to, this one was complicated because he had both slack and contractile stress in the psoas. So I acknowledge that it's more complicated. Let's just do it one at a time though. If this muscle's lengthened and this muscle's contracted and this muscle's being held in the contraction, do you think that just contracting this one would solve it? If this one's
already contracted.
What, Val?
Already in tensile contraction, or tensile over lengthened, so shortening it would, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, then it would lengthen the other side.
Yep, so check it out. So I hear where it went. Let's just do straight lever. There's no contractile or tensile stress. We'll walk ourselves through it based on what we know. Because again, we switched lanes here from how the body is designed when it's all going well to there's a problem in the road. Okay, now we got to get the boulder out of the road. We need to know what the boulder is to be able to move it so we can drive down the road. So here we are, lever, straight up lever. When this side lengthens, this side shortens. When this side shortens, this side lengthens. When this side lengthens, this side shortens. Goes both ways, right? Okay. And when all is going well, that's perfect. Of those two options, of side lengthening or side shortening, which one is the action that the body is up to doing that will create a resolve by joining in? Is it the lengthening side or is it the contracting side?
Contracting.
Okay, so the action is contraction, as you said, Anna. So we know that that is a driver. The contracting muscle is driving either towards where we want to go or away from where we want to go. Okay, so the action is contraction. So now let's say that we're in contraction in the psoas, because we are in this particular case study. And now we're in contraction and it's on overdrive, too much contraction, not letting go, contracted and held in contraction. Do we think that a muscle that's lengthened has as much power? Go back to the lever system. Is a muscle that's lengthened, does it exhibit as much power as the muscle that's contracting? No. So this guy doesn't have as much power because he's already in a lengthened position. And now he's fighting against the power guy being an egomaniac and like way too much power. So to just say, I'm going to contract here is not going to necessarily let go of the contractile stress. It would in a lever if nobody was off the rails. But we're off the rails now because we added 20 pounds of weight on a misaligned frame and then made a muscle that's doing two jobs limited in both of his jobs. So he had to go off the rails. We said that last time when we left. The psoas had to go off the rails in this instance because of what he was being asked to do and the alignment he was in.
Okay. So smaller movements such as PNF
Yeah, PNF is my favorite tool.
Okay.
Yeah, PNF because it also mildly contracts, wakes them up. What are the other phrases you guys were using?
Activate.
Activates, right? PNF is this magic. It's by definition, it's called phenomenon. If you guys don't have PNF yet in your toolbox, I really invite you to try to get that. I have a master class in our academy. I'm not sales pitching you. I'm just telling you, PNF has gotten me out of almost every pickle that I couldn't figure out. Is it this or is it that? Do I try that? Do I contract this one or length? Like what? PNF it, baby. And it's solved. It almost doesn't even matter. I mean, it does because you need to know what's going on to be able to walk them through a full solution. But PNF is the tool that cuts through all the noise. If you don't have PNF yet, please take that masterclass because it will change the game for you and it can be used head to toe. I've also used PNF a little bit the way I understand muscle activation has been used, and I also use PNF on intrinsic muscles. Now, by definition, does that mean it's still PNF? I don't know, but I know you've got to know PNF to be able to utilize it in these other ways. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of PNF for sure. So please do find your way to that tool if you don't have it actively already. So we said now that we would add
Can you
PNF.
tell us more about what it is and what it does?
Yeah, PNF is, by definition, it's a phenomenon, which I walk through that definition and the science behind that in the masterclass. So just trust me on that it's by definition a phenomenon. And what it does, loosely, a shot's brief, is it will restore the action of the lever system in both muscles on either side of that lever in 6 to 8 seconds. I mean, who doesn't want that kind of time frame when I only got an hour with somebody, right? Yeah, it's a bomb ass tool. Excuse the French, but it's just so good. It's just so good. I love it. I just love it. And there are other methods, by the way. We don't need to name them off, but there are other methods, by the way, who are built on PNF. And I think that's amazing. Like, look, I'm all in favor of folks developing their solutions. PNF is amazing, and it's not the only thing you need. It is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your toolbox, but on its own, it is not a method. And I firmly believe that, because if I thought that was the answer, I would have stopped there and I wouldn't have needed to keep going in the development of the one we have. So we would PNF the psoas, right, to get him to stop being in the renegade drift that he's in. And then what would you do in 30 seconds? Then what would you do? What's your next step in this client? Oh, you guys.
Check muscle tone for the multifidi.
Check muscle tone for the multifidi, or AKA the paraspinals. Let's just call it that. So it's the opposite side of the spine. How would you do that?
I would palpate because it's also tied in with well, we weren't
Okay. Okay. And again, at this stage of the game, we don't need to be a manual or a movement practitioner. How would you restore? Let's ask it a different way. How would you restore tone in the paraspinals that have been held in tensile stress this whole time?
Cup of coffee.
Coffee.
No. Cheers, Gary.
Sorry.
Yeah. How would you restore tone in the paraspinals after they? Yes.
What'd you say, Val?
Cheers. Alignment.
To coffee. Cheers to your coffee, and I raise you an alignment token. Yes. As soon as you bring the body back into alignment that has been out of alignment, you are enhancing tone just by holding alignment. But to your point, Anna, that you brought up before, we were like, I thought I said alignment. Right, but we've got to get the boulder out of the way to be able to go back into alignment. If there is a muscle that is holding the lever, that is hijacking the lever from being a lever, you can't get to alignment.
I just want to know if you read minds, because that's exactly what I was saying. What didn't I say?
Yeah, and do you hear my answer to that? Do you hear why? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Excellent. Okay, do we want to do more on this guy next week? Are you guys wanting more of this particular case study next week? Or are you tapped dry yet?
Well, was that it? Did you fix them after you did PNF and that? I wouldn't think so, because we've got glutes that need all kinds of work. And I think there's more to come here.
Oh yeah, there's more to come. I would love for you guys to come with, now that I started you off, like, right, we started you off on step 1 and 2 on the treatment plan, but the why is important. The why is important. I would love for you guys to come back next week with, and then what do you think is needed? Right? Because he still did come with a hamstring pull. Still did come, or what he thought was a hamstring pull. So what do you think we did to resolve the hamstring pull? And I will tell you exactly what.
Weren't his glutes underperforming? Glute max? Did we not discuss that last week?
We did. We did
I
discuss
just
that.
mentioned that.
Okay, so his goal, specific goal for that session, was to alleviate the discomfort in his right hamstring and knee.
And knee.
Oh, and knee.
Mm.
He didn't say he pulled his knee. Going
Nope.
back to watch all the replays before next week. All right, Clarissa, get it in, girl. Yes. Watch all those replays. Come back to me with your treatment plan. I will tell you that I did 4 things. We already talked about 2 of them. Okay. So you're halfway there, my loves. I can't wait till next week. I can't wait. I'll see you guys next.
Think of one. Okay.
All right, my loves. I'll see you. You guys did amazing today. I'm really enjoying this deep dive. I could do this all day, and I have another call, so I gotta go. But I love that you guys are here. Thank you for showing up and for participating. It makes it super fun. I love knowing that you're getting something out of this. I would love to hear what you're getting out of it, by the way, personally. If you guys want to send me a note or leave a note in the comments under the video on YouTube, I would love to hear what your takeaways are. And until I see you next week, continue to do great work in the world. See you then.
Thank you again.